Three types of turbine blades are impulse, reaction, and impulse reaction. Who establishes the recommended operating time between overhauls, TBO, of a turbine engine used in general aviation? The engine manufacturer. Regarding the above statements, neither number 1 nor number 2 is true. Welding and straightening the turbine engine rotating airfoils does not require special equipment. That is false. Welding and straightening the turbine engine rotating airfoils is commonly recommended by the manufacturer. That is also false. How does a dual axial flow compressor improve the efficiency of a turbojet engine? Higher compression ratios can be obtained. Some engine manufacturers have a twin spool gas turbine engines identify turbine discharge pressure in their maintenance manuals as PT7. PT7 is an abbreviation for P as in pressure, total is the T, and the station is number 7. Main bearing oil seals used with turbine engines are usually what types? Labranth and or carbon rubbing. Labranth or carbon seals can withstand high temperatures, while rubber seals will not work at those high temperatures. What is the first engine instrument indication of a successful start of a turbine engine? A rise in the exhaust gas temperature. A turbine engine compressor which contains vanes on both sides of the impeller is a dual-entry centrifugal compressor. If during inspection at engine overhaul, ball or roller bearings are found to have magnetism but otherwise have no defects, they must be degauzed before use, which means that they need to be demagnetized before they can be used again. What must be done after the fuel control unit has been replaced on an aircraft gas turbine engine? Retrim the engine. The function of the exhaust cone assembly of a turbine engine is to straighten and collect the exhaust gases into a solid exhaust jet. What are the two basic elements of a turbine section in a turbine engine? Hot and cold. When starting a turbine engine, a hung start is indicated if the engine fails to reach idle RPM. In a dual axial flow or twin spool compressor system, the first stage turbine drives the N2 compressor. The blending of blades and vanes in a turbine engine should be performed parallel to the length of the blade using smooth contours to minimize stress points. During inspection, turbine engine components exposed to high temperatures may only be marked with such materials as allowed by the manufacturer. These materials generally include layout dye, commercial felt tip marker, and chalk. At what point in an axial flow turbojet engine will the highest gas pressure occur? At the compressor outlet. When the leading edge of a first stage turbine blade is found to have stress rupture cracks, which of the following should be suspected? An overtemperature condition. The diffuser section of a jet engine is located between the compressor section and the burner section. In which type of turbine engine combustion chamber is the case and liner removed and installed as one unit during routine maintenance? Can. What is the purpose of the diffuser section in a turbine engine? To increase pressure and reduce velocity. The fan rotational speed of a dual axial compressor forward fan engine is the same as the low pressure compressor. The low pressure compressor is another name for the fan spool. What is the profile of a turbine engine compressor blade? A cutout that reduces blade tip thickness. In a gas turbine engine, combustion occurs at a constant pressure. The abbreviation PT7 used in turbine engine terminology means the total pressure at station 7. An advantage to the axial flow compressor is its high peak efficiency. What turbine engine section provides the proper mixing of the fuel and the air? The combustion section. Which statement is true regarding jet engines? At the higher engine speeds, thrust increases rapidly with small increases in RPM. An exhaust cone placed aft of the turbine in a jet engine will cause the pressure in the first part of the exhaust to increase and the velocity to decrease. Turbine blades are generally more susceptible to operating damage than compressor blades because of exposure to high temperatures. What is the function of the stator vane assembly at the discharge end of a typical axial flow compressor? To straighten airflow to eliminate turbulence. What is one purpose of stator blades in a compressor section of a turbine engine? Control the direction of the airflow. One function of the nozzle diaphragm in a turbine engine is to direct the flow of gases to strike the turbine blades at a desired angle. What is the primary factor which controls the pressure ratio of an axial flow compressor? The number of stages in compressor. What is meant by a shrouded turbine? The turbine blades are shaped so that their ends form a band or shroud. The stator vanes in an axial flow compressor convert velocity energy into pressure energy. Hot spots on the tail cone of a turbine engine are possible indicators of a malfunctioning fuel nozzle or a faulty combustion chamber. What is the proper starting sequence for a turbojet engine? Starter, ignition, fuel. Regarding the statements above, both are true. In a turbine engine axial flow compressor, each consecutive pair of rotor and stator blades constitutes a pressure stage. That is true. In a turbine engine axial flow compressor, the number of rows of stages is determined by the amount of air and total pressure rise required. That is true. What is used in turbine engines to aid in stabilization of compressor airflow during low thrust engine operations? Variable guide vanes and/or compressor bleed valves. The air passing through the combustion chamber of a turbine engine is used to support combustion and to cool the engine. What term is used to describe a permanent and cumulative deformation of a turbine blades of a turbojet engine? Creep. Creep is caused by the operation of the turbine blades at a very high temperature while subject to extreme centrifugal force. The non-rotating axial flow compressor airfoils in an aircraft gas turbine are stator vanes. Vanes are stationary and blades rotate, so the stator vanes are non-rotating. The purpose of a bleed valve located at the beginning stages of a compressor in an aircraft gas turbine engine is to vent some of the air overboard to prevent compressor stalls. At what stage in a turbine engine are gas pressures the greatest? The compressor outlet. What type of turbine blade is most commonly used in aircraft jet engines? Impulse reaction. Both of these statements above are true. Accumulation of contaminants in the compressor of a turbojet engine reduces aerodynamic efficiency on the blades. True. Two common methods for removing dirt deposits from turbojet engine compressor blades are a fluid wash and an abrasive grit blast. True. The pressure of subsonic air as it flows through a convergent nozzle decreases. Airflow through a subsonic convergent nozzle will increase velocity and decrease pressure. What is the primary advantage to an axial flow compressor over a centrifugal compressor? Greater pressure ratio. Hot spots in the combustion section of a turbojet engine are possible indicators of malfunctioning fuel nozzles. Generally, When starting a turbine engine, the starter should be disengaged after the engine has reached self-accelerating speed. Anti-icing of jet engine air inlets is commonly accomplished by engine bleed air ducted through the critical areas. A condition known as hot streaking in turbine engines is caused by a partially clogged fuel nozzle. What should be done initially if a turbine engine catches fire when starting? Turn off the fuel and continue engine rotation with the starter. Turning the fuel off will stop the flow of fuel, which by itself will probably extinguish the fire. If not, by rotating the engine, the fire can be drawn and blown out or sucked into the engine. In what section of a turbojet engine is the jet nozzle located? The exhaust. Severe rubbing of turbine engine compressor blades will usually cause galling. Galling will usually occur from severe rubbing of the compressor blades. There could be some material loss from one surface to another. Newton's first law of motion, generally termed the law of inertia, states that every body persists in its state of rest or of motion in a straight line unless acted upon by some outside force. Which two elements make up the axial flow compressor assembly? The rotor and stator. If the RPM of an axial flow compressor remains constant, the angle of attack of a rotor blades can be changed by changing the velocity of the airflow. An advantage of centrifugal flow compressor is its high pressure rise per stage. Dirt particles in the air being introduced into the compressor of a turbine engine will form a coating on all but which of the following? The turbine blades. The compression ratio of an axial flow compressor is a function of the number of compressor stages. Reduced blade vibration and improved airflow characteristics in gas turbines are brought about by shrouded turbine rotor blades. The Brayton cycle is known as the constant pressure cycle. If a turbine engine is unable to reach its EPR, engine pressure ratio, before its EGT, exhaust gas temp limit, is reached, this is an indication that the compressor may be contaminated or damaged. Which of the following engine variables is the most critical during turbine engine operation? Turbine inlet temperature. The recurrent ingestion of dust or other fine airborne particles into the turbine engine can result in erosion damage to the compressor and turbine sections. Which of the following types of combustion sections are used in aircraft turbine engines? Multiple can, annular, and can-annular. The exhaust section of a turbine engine is designed to impart a high exit velocity to the exhaust gases. A purpose of the shrouds on the turbine blades of an axial flow engine is to reduce vibration. The procedure for removing the accumulation of dirt deposits on compressor blades is called field cleaning. The two types of centrifugal compressor impellers are single entry and double entry. Why do some turbine engines have more than one turbine wheel attached to the single shaft? To extract more power from the exhaust gases than a single wheel can absorb. Between each row of rotating blades in a turbine engine compressor, there is a row of stationary blades, which act to diffuse the air. These stationary blades are called stators. Stators are stationary. They do not move. When aircraft turbine blades are subject to excessive heat stress, what type of failures would you expect? Stress rupture. Which of the following may be used to accomplish internal inspection of an assembled turbine engine? A borescope. What is a possible cause when a turbine engine indicates no change in power setting parameters, but oil temperature is high? Engine main bearing distress. Using standard atmospheric conditions, the standard sea level temperature is 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Standard sea level pressure is 29.92 inches of mercury, or 14.7 psi. The velocity of subsonic air as it flows through a convergent nozzle increases. Where is the highest gas pressure in a turbojet engine? In the entrance of the burner section. Which statements are true regarding aircraft engine propulsion? An engine-driven propeller imparts a relatively small amount of acceleration to a large mass of air, as well as turbojet and turbofan engines impart a relatively large amount of acceleration to smaller mass of air. Where do stress rupture cracks usually appear on turbine blades? Across the leading or trailing edge at a right angle to the edge length. Which of the following is the ultimate limiting factor of turbine engine operation? Turbine inlet temperature. A weak fuel-to-air mixture along with normal airflow through a turbine engine may result in a lean die-out. Which of the following can cause fan blade shingling in a turbofan engine? Engine overspeed and or FOD. Jet engine turbine blades removed for detailed inspection must be reinstalled in the same slot. Under which of the following conditions will the trimming of a turbine engine be most accurate? No wind and low moisture. What indications may shift when a turbofan engine anti-icing bleed air system is turned on? Tachometer, EGT, and EPR. Excessive valve clearance in a piston engine decreases valve overlap. Some high-volume turboprop and turbojet engines are equipped with two-spool or split compressors. When these engines are operated at high altitudes, the low-pressure rotor will increase in speed as the compressor load decreases in the lower density air. Turbine nozzle diaphragms located on the upstream side of each turbine wheel are used in the gas turbine engine to increase the velocity of the heated gases flowing past this point. The turbine section of a jet engine drives the compressor section. When starting a turbine engine, a hot start is indicated if the exhaust gas temperature exceeds specified limits. What are the two functional elements in a centrifugal compressor? Impeller and diffuser. Turbine engine components exposed to high temperatures generally may not be marked with wax or grease pencil and graphite lead pencils. Who establishes mandatory replacement times for critical components of turbine engines? The engine manufacturer. Which turbine engine compressor offers the greatest advantages for both starting flexibility and improved high-altitude performance? A split-spool axial flow. In an axial flow compressor, one purpose of the stator vanes at the discharge end of the compressor is to straighten the airflow and eliminate turbulence. Compressor field cleaning on turbine engines is performed primarily in order to prevent engine performance degradation, increase fuel costs, and damage or corrosion to gas path surfaces. Hot section inspections for many modern turbine engines are required on a time or cycle basis. In a turbine engine with a dual spool compressor, the low-speed compressor seeks at its own best operating speed. What is the function of the inlet guide vane assembly on an axial flow compressor? directs the air into the first stage rotor blades at the proper angle. The velocity of supersonic air as it flows through a divergent nozzle increases. The pressure of a supersonic air as it flows through a divergent nozzle decreases. What is meant by a double-entry centrifugal compressor? A compressor with vanes on both sides of the impeller. What is the major function of a turbine assembly in a turbojet engine? Supplies the power to turn the compressor. Stator blades in the compressor section of an axial flow turbine engine decrease the air velocity and prevent swirling. A gas turbine engine comprises which three main sections? The turbine, compressor, and combustion. The stators in a turbine section of a gas turbine engine increase the velocity of the gas flow. The compressor stators in a gas turbine engine act as diffusers to decrease the velocity of the gas flow. A turbine engine hot section is particularly susceptible to which kind of damage? Cracking. Which of the following influences the operation of an automatic fuel control unit in a turbojet engine? Burner pressure. Continued and/or excessive heat and centrifugal force on turbine engine rotor blades is likely to cause creeping. Which of the following variables affect the inlet air density of a turbine engine? The speed of the aircraft, the altitude of the aircraft, and the ambient temperature. Which of the following factors affect the thermal efficiency of a turbine engine? Turbine inlet temperature, compression ratio, and turbine and compressor efficiency. What type igniter plug is used in a low-tension ignition system of an aircraft turbofan engine? Self-ionizing or shunted gap type plug. Compressor stall is caused by a high angle of attack airflow through the first stages of compression. Describe the major components of a typical gas turbine engine. Air inlet, compressor section, combustion section, turbine section, exhaust section, and accessory section. Describe the different types of compressors currently used in turbojet engines. Centrifugal and axial flow. What is the purpose of a carbon seal in a turbojet engine? The carbon seal is a type of seal used in a turbine area of the engine and remains effective in high temperature areas. Name some advantages of a turbofan engine over a turbojet engine. The turbofan is quieter and has additional thrust without increasing fuel flow and is quieter. Describe the types of compressor blade damage that may be found when inspecting them. Dents, galling, pitting, cracks, scratches, burrs, blisters, and gouges.